Hello, Marshables. Welcome to my den. Let's do a lesson on subtracting sign numbers, which is really identical almost to adding sign numbers with a small little bonus. So get your pencil, paper, calculator. Pencil, paper, calculator. Because the pencil is the tool of your mind, and when you're thinking, you should be writing. So let me share my iPad screen with you if it will work. Bingo. Yes, here we go. Fill that. There we go. All right, so first and last name, if you got the note page, my first name's Mr. Last name Marsh. All right, so subtracting sign numbers. Quick review. We're going to go through this very fast. You're obviously able to pause the video if you need to slow down a little bit. You can even adjust the speed now on YouTube. If you want to speed it up and hear me talk really fast, you can do that. Or you can slow it down. So, review. Sign tells us direction. And there's two kinds of direction. There's direction of location, and there's direction of change. All right, now, combining multiple signs. If you have a positive and a positive, they can be replaced with a single positive sign. And if you have a positive and a negative, you can replace them with a single negative sign. And if you have a negative and a negative, you can replace that with a single positive sign. And today we're really going to get into why that is. But the first step in combining sign numbers is to combine multiple signs into one sign. Pardon me, looks like the volume levels are a little high. Turn it down. Sorry if I'm a little too loud in your ear. That should be a little bit better. All right, so simplify. I've got two signs. Replace them with their equivalent. 5. What's the positive times a negative? Well, that would be a negative. 5 minus 7 now is how that simplifies. Simplify the sign is one step. Then the second step is to simplify the numbers. Are the signs the same or different? They're different, because that's a positive 5 right there. What's the difference of 5 and 7? That would be the number 2. What's the sign of the final answer? Negative, because I have more negatives with 7. And they cancel 1 to 1, so I have leftover negatives. That's the process. The next one, negative 12 minus a negative 15. And it wouldn't matter if there was a parenthesis here. It kind of means the same thing, so don't let that bother you. First step is to combine those two signs into one. Negative 12 plus 15. Are the signs the same or different? They're different. Find the difference. 3. What's the sign of the answer? Positive, but we don't have to write it, so we just leave it as 3. Now this one, negative 8 minus a positive 9. First step is to combine the sign. Negative 8 minus 9. Are the signs the same or different now? They are the same, so I add the numbers. What's 8 plus 9? 17. Don't bother with the sign yet. We'll do that last. Since they're both negative, the final answer is negative. Negative 17, and then that's the review. Now, most textbooks, when they're going to talk about subtracting sign numbers, they say something like, don't subtract, don't add, I can't even say this right, it's so confusing. Don't subtract the positive, add the negative. And I'm like, I've never understood what any of that meant. What does that even mean? Hey, we're going to add the opposite. What? Pencil, paper, calculator. So here's what we're going to do. Let's talk about this. Let me explain what's going on here. We said that sign means direction. And it either means direction of location, left or right of 0, or it means direction of change, moving left or moving right. But negative means opposite. Okay? Now, let's take a look at this. Negative 5 minus a negative 20. This negative here means do the opposite. This here of negative 20, this means left. So it's negative 5. Do the opposite now of left 20. What's the opposite of left? If you said right, you're correct. I almost said you're right, but then you'd be right. But anyway, you're correct. So this really becomes negative 5. What's the opposite of left? Right. What's the sign for right? Positive. 20. There you go. That's what that means. Negative minus 20 means do the opposite of left 20, which would be right 20, which is positive 20. Isn't this the way you would normally talk? Like I was in class today and I said, hey, you know, if the fire drill goes off, you're going to go out the door and you're going to go opposite of right. But I would never say that. I would say you're going to go left. See what I mean? Now, once we get the signs combined, are the signs the same or different? They're different. Find the difference, which would be the number 15. What's the sign of the final answer? Positive, even though I don't have to write that. But I will just to be deliberate. How about this one? Negative 2.4 minus a positive 2.6. Again, this sign here means opposite. The opposite direction. What's the opposite of right 2.6? Because the positive means right. Okay, that means the number is going to be negative 2.4. And what's the opposite of right? Left. What's the sign of left? Negative 2.6. So the better way of saying do the opposite of right 2.6 is simply to say go left 2.6. Are you following now what the signs mean? Like I didn't know this in school. Maybe I'm a little bit of a knucklehead when I went through school and I was taught it but didn't do the work of learning it. Don't let that be you. But I don't recall ever this. No. It was actually when I was in high school or even college physics when we finally started to talk about sign as a direction that I started to kind of put some of these pieces together. It's not enough just to tell you what. You can memorize what to do. But if something changes, if all you've done is memorize what, you won't be able to proceed unless someone tells you what to do next. But if you can think, if you understand why the things are what they are, then you can adapt without having to be told what to do. You can adjust. What was the Dave Ramsey quote? Anybody that knows what will have a job, but usually the people that know why are the boss. So are the signs the same or different? They're the same, so add the numbers together. You get 5. What's the sign of the final answer? Negative 5. If you're left 2.4 and you go 2.6 units more left, you're at negative 5. You're left 5 units. Okay, so now find the difference. The main one I want to focus on here is this middle one. Did this one in class today. Had several students do it badly. Again, combine the two signs into one. This is negative 7. What's a positive? Oh, dang it, I'm giving the answer away. When I ask the question, you'll see me do that in class. I'm thinking about what the answer is rather than asking the question, so I blurt out the answer. I'll start over again. What's a negative times a negative? That would be a positive 5. And again, that answer is negative 2. Okay. Again, what this means right here, this means do the opposite of left 5, which means right 5. Bada bing. Several students did this though. They said negative 7, and then they said plus, but then they left that negative with the 5 in there. They said plus and negative 5. No, that's totally wrong. Like if I had the buzzer right here, I'd buzz you. No. You don't change one of the signs into a positive and keep the other negative sign. You eliminate both signs with one equivalent. It's not this. It's not that negative there at all. I had several students had to tell erase that one right there. There you go. That's what it is. Okay. You can take a look at that one on your own if you want to. Let's do this. Oh, okay. Let's do the number line connection here, just real quick. This one's simple. There's another one, but it's almost the same thing. This is your start. Whoops, pen. This is your start. This now is your change. So if I start at negative 5, what does that mean? That means 5 left of 0. Let me put 0 right here. That's negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. If I say start at negative 5, which is right here, and then I say right here, do the opposite of left 3. What's the opposite of left 3? Well, it would be right 3. 1, 2, 3. Where's my stopping point? Stopping point would be the answer, negative 2. But rather than saying do the opposite of left 3, can't I simplify it first and say it's negative 5, move to the right 3, and then have that be the answer? Yeah, that's the best way to do it. Does that make sense? Boy, I sure hope so. If you can wrap your head around this and understand that sign means direction, And maybe you don't have to think about it all the times when you're doing the computational stuff. You're just running through the process, combine the multiple signs into one equivalent sign, and then decide if the signs are the same or different, and then that tells you whether to add or subtract the numbers, and then you get your whatever sign it is left. You walk through the little step-by-step thing to kind of come up with the answer. But you gotta know what it means. Okay, there's some more that involves decimals. I'll let you kind of mess with those. Now find the difference. There's subtracting fractions. It's all the same thing. Add or subtract fractions, you got to have common denominators, and so this is just extra practice. But now let's talk about something that really relates to this. A lot of things that you'll do in mathematics, let me get it in the field of view here. A lot of things that you'll do in mathematics really asks you to find the difference of things. Difference means subtracting. And in particular, you'll be asked to find maybe the distance between two things. If you told me your age and I told you my age and then asked, well, what's the difference? What we really mean in mathematics is not that you're young and I'm old. What we mean is how many years are between us. That would be a subtraction. You would take the larger number, my age, minus your age, and that would be the difference. Okay? So, get these notes down. The distance between two numbers on a number line is the difference of the two numbers. You're going to take the one number minus the other number. And the interesting thing is it doesn't really matter which one you do first, because the distance really doesn't have direction. Now, when you get into physics, displacement does. I have to say that for all the physics peeps out there. Displacement does involve direction, but distance does not. And that's the difference between a vector and a scalar, which you'll get into later. Scalars have no direction, but vectors do. But anyway, don't have to worry about that right now. So just subtract the two numbers from each other. It doesn't even matter the order, because all you want is the number. You don't want the sign. So the final value has number only. There is no sign. Distance is just the magnitude. So this is actually called absolute value. In other words, it's the size of the number only. Don't care which direction it is. And has the symbol. The symbol is like two vertical bars with then the number in between them. Maybe you've seen that before. It means how big's the number? Don't care about the sign. So what's the absolute value of -5? All you got to do is reach in there and swipe that sign off there and just keep the number 5. What's the absolute value of a +6? 6. No sign. Now, when you do stuff with absolute value later, maybe you do have a sign because they tell you what to do with it. We'll get into some of that later on. But the absolute value of a number just means how big is the number, don't care about the sign. So we could do this, the absolute value between 1/3 and 2 on the number line. To make it simpler, I'm just going to change this. I'm just going to make this +3. Find the distance between 3 and -2 on the number line. So here we go. So I'm going to put 0 right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then -1, -2, -3, -4. And what am I doing? I'm looking for the distance between 3, which is that location, and -2, which is that location. And if you can count, all you got to do is go, well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. 5 units. But it doesn't matter if you go the other direction. Count forwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5 units. They're 5 units away from each other. But how do you do that without actually drawing a number line every time? All you do is you find the difference and you just take the size of the number. I could go 3 minus a -2. Notice one of the negatives is the subtraction operation, and the other one is the sign that goes with the 2. Well, what's that? It's 3 plus 2. What's that? 5. You may say it's +5, but I want the absolute value of it, which is just 5. Or you could say the other way. You could say it's -2 minus 3. What's that? -5, but I want the absolute value of it, which is, again, just 5. Okay, that's all it is. The last one's just some more practice, and then there's a practical question, something like this. Hey, there's a satellite where one side faces the sun and the other side doesn't. So one side's hot and the other side's cold. What's the difference in temperature between them? And all you got to do, they even drew you a graph. If the hot side is positive 200 degrees and the cold side is negative 400 degrees, this must be Fahrenheit because you can't get negative 400 degrees centigrade. That's impossible. There is a zero. There is really a 0, 0. There's a temperature that you can't get colder after that. But anyway, what's the difference between these two? Hopefully, if you can just count, you can say that it's 600. But if you wanted to do it analytically, which means using the computations of math, you would say 200 minus the bottom one, which is negative 400. Wow, you know how to do that. Or you could say negative 400 minus the top one, which is 200. And then just take the number only. Doesn't matter about the sign. That should be it. Okay. Looks like you made it. Video's over. Have a good day. Bye-bye.